That is increasing more. We never had that snake and whether python and swallow him.
Why?
Everything has increased.
Conversational, controversial, and borderline disruptive. The Big Question.
Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays from 12:05 p.m. only on Women Radio.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for staying with us right here on your Women Radio WFM 91.7. I hope that your day is good. And of course, it's a Friday. So I hope that your Friday is definitely looking great and your weekend will be good. So today is the 14th day in the month of March 2025. And you're welcome to the program, The Big Question. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser. Now, The Big Question is a program where we get to discuss and provide solutions to issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens. And the big question today is taking a different route. All right. So we are going to be extending the time because we have a very critical conversation to do this afternoon with my two amazing guests. We're going to drive this conversation for more than the usual time that we usually take big questions. So I urge you all to stay tuned and get to listen to our conversation for today. Now, you can be part of the conversation by dialing 07000 917 917. You can also do well to send us a WhatsApp message to 070 317 56537. Our toll-free number is 0800 1235 917. Those are the different numbers that you can get in touch with me this afternoon. And of course, our social media handles are there for you to get in touch with me too. Facebook, Instagram, X, and of course at YouTube at WFM917. You can also log on to our website at www.wfm917.com. Now, we're actually live. You can catch us live on our YouTube at WFM917. You can also catch us live on Facebook at WFM917. Okay, so you can get to follow up the conversation. So today on The Big Question, we'll be discussing the topic confronting the barriers to women in leadership. Now, a case of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Folake, Soetan, and Mojisola Meranda. Now, we are all familiar with the cases of these three women. So, we want to look at some of the barriers that are confronting women in leadership, because all these three women are women who have faced one issue or the other. They faced a lot of backlash. They faced a lot of talks here and there, social media, people discussing it. It's been a trending issue so far. And up to now, we're still going on with the case of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, even at the CSW 69 happening in New York. So it's definitely a continuous conversation. So it's definitely right that we get to talk about this. Now, women in leadership continue to face challenges from political opposition to workplace bias to systemic barriers. Now, recent case of Miranda's leadership challenges in Lagos, and we're talking about Folake Soetan's rise in the corporate world. Okay, now, all of this highlight the resistance women get to encounter when they step into power. We're very familiar with what has been happening with Natasha, and of course, for Meranda, for those who are in Lagos, Ogonaxis around here, and even, in other places. I'm sure that we got to hear how that ended up. Now, Meranda was elected and sworn in as the first female speaker for Lagos House of Assembly, replacing Mondashiro Obasa, and who was impeached for gross misconduct. But her short tenure was marred with controversy, and Obasa challenging his removal. So there was a lot of back and forth. At some point, we actually saw that it was more like her life was almost in danger because her security details were taken away from her. So it was a tussle during that period. That actually we got to the point where she had to resign from being the Lagos being the Lagos House of the Lagos House of Assembly Speaker. She had to resign from that, and then she had to go back to being the Deputy Lagos State House of Assembly Speaker. So she went from there to being the Speaker. From there, she came back to being. So we can just imagine what is going on. And for Folake, we're all just minding our businesses, doing our daily jobs, when we suddenly heard that personnel of NAF, Nigerian Air Force, stormed Ikeja Electric, allegedly assaulted some of the staff, and the CEO herself was also allegedly assaulted, and she was, from some stories we heard that she was put into a trunk and she was taken away. Now you can just imagine some of the things that women in leadership get to face. Now, why does this continue to happen, and what can be done to change it? As we're still within the International Women's Month, it is very important that we get to discuss the obstacles women face in leadership and explore solutions to create a more inclusive and supportive environment for female leaders. Now, joining me today on the program, I have two amazing women who have been very vocal, since the case of Natasha started, and even for the other women too. I have joining me Honorable Irene Awuna Ikiage. She is the President, Nigerian League of Women Voters. Good afternoon, Honorable Irene. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. It's a beautiful Friday in the month of March. I'm fine, but I don't think Nigeria is fine.
You can say that again, honestly. Anyway, we'll come to that. Now, let's meet our second guest for the program this afternoon. We have Chioma Agwibo. She is the Executive Director, TechHa, and she's a women's rights activist. Good afternoon, Chioma. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm very well, thank you.
All right. Happy International Women's Month to all of us. All right, so we'll just head on straight to the conversation. This is Women Radio WFM 91.7, and this is Nigeria's first radio station for women and their families. And once again, my name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser, and today on the program, we're taking a different route today because we are discussing something really important, all right, on the big question. Now, we're looking at confronting the barriers to women in leadership, a case of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Folake, Soetan, and Mojisola Meranda. So this is the topic for our conversation today. So let's head on straight to the conversation. All right. Let's start off with Honorable Irene. Now, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Folake, and Mojisola, they've faced barriers in their different sectors. Natasha in politics, Folake, who is, in just a private, sector, just trying her best to see that, she does well, she's able to lead her people to achieve greater heights. And then there's Mojisola too, still in politics. Now, these women have faced different barriers in their sectors. What do their experience actually reveal about the broader challenges that women get to encounter, especially those in leadership positions? All right, you're muted, so you can unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Just for the record purposes, my organization is League of Women Voters of Nigeria, because the Kama law refuses that no non-government organization should have Nigeria at the beginning of their name. We used to be the Nigerian League of Women Voters until the Kama law stipulated that all organizations of government should move their Nigeria in their name to the end of the name of the organization.
Okay.
It's quite a very sad month for Nigerian women. It's been consistent like this. I don't know why it's our International Women's Month has turned out to always be our sad month in the recent times. These three scenarios you just painted here are just the true representation of what happens to women in leadership in Nigeria. And I want to say this emphatically, that it is not that these women have not been speaking up, or it's also because that the powers that be are always gagging them, even they are gagging their voices, even if they want to speak up. I will start with the Lagos State House of Assembly embattled speaker. I think first, because why am I going there? as the president of League of Women Voters of Nigeria, we are concerned about how women emerge to become candidates within political parties. We've been engaging political parties about giving women the enabling environment to strive within their spaces. Political parties thrive because of the various contributions women bring to the table within their political parties. Women are the core mobilizers of the votes that they get to win elections as a party. Unfortunately, they relegate women to just a woman leader, and they make it seem in such a way that within the political structure, those who decide what happens are all men. Why am I bringing in this perspective? You would understand that what brought her down was because the party leadership was not with her. And why wouldn't the party leadership wouldn't be with her? Because there are no women in that room. That party leadership, the only person that will be a woman in that room will either be only the woman leader, or at most the treasurer, or an ex-official that has no strong voice to add to situations like this.
All right. Can you hear us? I think we're having a little bit of network hitches coming from her end. Well, before we come back to you, let's head on to Chioma. Chioma, now let's get to hear from you, because she was saying something. Now, when I looked at, some of the videos that came out for Mojisola, we actually saw lots of men surrounding her. And I think this actually speaks to the point that Honorable Irene was trying to make. But then again, let's come to you, Chioma. Now, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan case, highlights the political barriers women face. But we've also seen similar challenges in Lagos with just the leadership struggle that Honorable Irene was talking about. On Mojisola and Meranda. Now, why do you think women in leadership continue to face such strong resistance? Knowing fully well, how far Natasha's case has gone up to the table of the United Nations as it is. Why do you think we continue to face such strong resistance?
Thank you very much for that question. I think that, first of all, we're calling them barriers, and I think that kind of whittles down the urgency of we say barriers as if someone's holding a rope and saying don't cross this line. We actually have institutionalized hindrances and obstacles. The political space for women in Nigeria is extremely tenuous. In some spaces, we are told that women have to work twice as hard. In Nigeria, women are working 15 times as hard, and even when they have men surround them, like Honorable Mojisola had, that surrounding is almost useless. For instance, we saw a legislator in Lagos State, in the Lagos State House of Assembly, crying and saying, oh, we're going to miss her. But just the day before, he was praising, the current speaker, Obasa. So I'm not impressed with people who were standing around her and all of the theatrics. What we need in Nigeria and what we need urgently are laws that are not bent or twisted to support or pander to individuals. We need laws that are equally applied, or that are applied equally, regardless of what the challenge is. You said Senator Natasha's issue has gone far. If we're actually being honest, it hasn't. The one thing she has asked about, which is a sexual harassment allegation, hasn't been treated anywhere. It hasn't been treated in court. That's not what she's in court for. It hasn't been treated by the ethics committee. As a matter of fact, before she even submitted the petition, the ethics committee said the petition was dead on arrival. You do not expect them to treat it in any way. And then you have the utterances by members of the Senate, on whether it's her age or it's the disrepute she's brought the Senate into, or the fact that she was unruly or she refused to change her seat. We have everything but focus on the matter which she raised, which is the allegation of sexual assault. And you have to think about the fact, you have to think about and ask yourself if we're actually being serious about how we want to be viewed globally. Because right now it seems like everyone has a song and a dance about, she's embarrassing the country, or Nigeria has now been tabled internationally for disgrace, etc. But are we doing things that are worthy of disgrace? What is the message we are giving to women? What is the message we are giving to our daughters and to our sons about sexual harassment? What's the message we're giving about agency? What is the message we're giving about people speaking up when bad things happen? When even a woman so powerful, a woman who is within the Senate, right, cannot speak up, who is married to a powerful man, cannot speak up about an injustice that has been done to her and receive respectful, dignified responses to that. That is what we should be discussing. It's not a barrier. It is an institutionalized set of criminal actions that ensure that women are not going to be able to break through or ascend certain heights. As a matter of fact, as she was being walked out of the house, I'm talking about Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, you had people saying she's not coming back. Meaning that people have made decisions even without the treatment of the one.
Able to get there, and which is an inspiration to a lot of young girls and a lot of women who are watching her go up the ladder. Now, what lessons do you think can be drawn from, her leadership journey so far to get to where she is as it is?
Again, thank you very much for this question. Again, whatever lessons we were going to draw from her leadership journey have now been, as it were, sacrificed on the altar of the extreme physical and mental violence she has faced at the hands of the Nigerian army. We have now learned that the officials who came into Ikeja Disco came from the Sam Ethan barracks. And they came because of an unpaid bill of approximately 4 billion naira, which has been owed over a number of years, and previous agreements on a payment plan have not been followed, and so their light was caught, as is done to other Nigerians who do not pay their bills. And so there was this invasion of Ikeja Disco, and I don't think we should still use the word allegedly, because even the Minister of Power has condemned the action. Right? And so the military invades Ikeja Disco, beats people up. It is alleged that she was put into the boot of a car. And, vehicles were carted away, phones were destroyed, computers were taken away, etc. Some things were brought back. But it's been a few days since that incident. Where is the judiciary? Where is the top brass of the army, with very, very, huge punishments for the army officials who sanctioned that activity? Growing up, we were told that the army doesn't move unless there's a command. Who commanded that action? Who said you can go into a private institution and brutalize people? So when we talk about, she's the first woman to do this, she's the first woman to do that, all of that has now been stained by a Nigeria that thinks it's okay to brutalize an entire office because you are unhappy with them without any consequence. I was watching a podcast this morning. I said what I said, and one of the things that was said there was Nigeria largely operates without consequences for anything. And we can go back to the Senate. Senator Elisha Abo, a few years ago, was caught in video on CCTV beating up a woman in a sex
I remember that.
Right? Nothing happened to him. As a matter of fact, our current president's wife, during the panel investigation, asked him, do you want us to protect you? Right? Or do you want, what do you want? Do you want us to protect you? I mean, it goes without saying that we was protected because nothing happened. There was a court case. He was told to pay damages. He appealed. There was no justice. If we're being really honest, there was no justice for that woman. Right? We have seen legislators behave really badly. We have seen commissioners, people in positions of power, behave really badly. I have worked on a case where a commissioner in a particular state, I won't name, was accused of raping a child. Nothing happened. We had the incident of a legislator who is supposed to be upholding the constitution of Nigeria, marrying a child. And the argument was, oh no, she's not 12, she's 13 or she's 14.
Yeah.
And people were saying, oh, I'm not going to follow the constitution, I'm going to follow my religious laws. Why are you in the Senate? The one thing you were put there to do was to uphold the constitution of Nigeria. And then you get there and you say, no, the thing I'm not going to do is uphold the constitution because my religious beliefs trump that. There are no consequences for bad behavior in Nigeria. Your proximity to power, your political affiliation, the amount of money you have in your hand are all determinants if you are going to get punished for doing something wrong. So what do we tell young people with stuff like this? We tell them, instead of stealing a chicken or a piece of yam or a tuber of yam or a goat and getting sentenced to death or getting sentenced to how many months in prison or how many years in prison with hard labor, steal billions of naira so that you can obtain lifetime injunctions stopping courts from trying your case. So again, so when you tell me she was the first woman to do this and she's this and what is her leadership, the only thing in my head is, despite all of these great strides, the military can invade your office, beat you up, put you in the boot of the car, and nothing happens. We're going to talk about it till Women's Month is over, and then we're going to move on. And that's the real crying shame.
I just wish that, some of these conversations can keep going even after, the Women's Month. So it's not just that we're concentrating on the Women's Month, we're looking at some of these issues, and then after it just dies down and every other thing just comes up. And, we have a culture of saying, don't worry, everything will go down. It will just, something else will come up, and we just push this under the carpet. And meanwhile, these are real issues. These are real issues. So if we're saying we want to change in Nigeria, if we're saying we want to move forward, then how come we're not dealing with all of these things that you have mentioned? So it's actually disturbing. Honestly, it is. Anyway, thank you so much, Chioma, for that. Okay, we have the Honorable back right now. Thank you very much for political parties and, how that has actually contributed in what happened in Lagos. Now, we know that Lagos politics, in terms of what Mojisola faced, her experience, Lagos politics shows that even when women secure leadership positions, they often get to face resistance from their own parties, from their own parties where they actually got to win this political position or leadership positions from. Now, let's talk about the political structure. All right, how can this actually be reformed to better support women in governance? Because you were just mentioning political parties, the role they play when it comes to helping women, or not really helping, but pushing women to go for these leadership positions. Now, how has that played out? In Mojisola's case in Lagos.
Okay, as I was saying earlier. The political parties usually they have a systematic way of removing women from decision-making rooms, and that's from the composition of the executive of the political parties, right from the ward level. In every ward in Nigeria, 8 political parties have no less than 15 members of executives, and in that executive, those who have the powers to vote people as candidates or vote people to represent them as flag bearers of their political parties are usually 5 or 6. And within these 5 or 6 people, out of the 15 people in that ward, they usually have just one woman who is a woman leader. And even that woman leader is chosen by a man.
Wow.
Yes. And so she is voiceless. And so if a woman aspirant or a female aspirant, so to say, or a female candidate requires the support of the political party leadership, she doesn't get, especially when she is contesting against a man. Now, what transpired in Lagos was that the immediate constituency by law, those who were expected to elect their speaker or impeach a speaker were all with her. They believed in her, they believed in her leadership. They were tired of the the former leadership of the party of the assembly, and they didn't hesitate to speak up at every situation and every instances that required them to speak up. However, the powers that be within the political parties felt that she was just a woman. Apparently, she was not. They didn't feel that she was loyal enough to do their bidding in the state assembly, and so they decided to gang up and ensure that they remove her in. They forced her into resigning. And of course, if you have ever played party politics, you will know that the party is supreme. If you continue to insist to go against the decision or the mindset of your political party, they can slam you an expulsion. If they expel you from the party, you know what that means constitutionally. You might lose the seat where you were elected. And so the best thing or the wise thing or the most diplomatic thing to do in this situation is to resign. And this is the second time this is happening in Nigeria. It is very appalling that history is repeating itself
again.
This happened in Edo State when Right Honorable Elizabeth Ativi was elected by the House to be the Speaker of Edo State House of Assembly. She was also twisted to resign after a few months of presiding over the State Assembly. What does this show? It shows that our democracy has a way of gagging women into the background. They do not want to give women the opportunity to be leaders after showing capacity, tenacity, and the ability to lead. It is unfortunate that in this age, where Nigerian women are shattering the ceilings, the glass ceilings, and doing great things globally, back home, they are treated in this way and manner. Now, I will talk about Natasha last. Let me talk about what happened in the corporate space. Now, we have corporate organizations that are tax-paying organizations in this country. Women have shown capacity that they can lead. And because a woman is a leader in an institution like that, the military can just go into her office, bundle her up, and take her away like a common criminal. That will not be done to a wife of a politician. And if I'm saying a politician, that will not be done to a wife of an ordinary political thug. Because before that happens, he will call his so-called godfather here, and this is what they're about to do, and they will be ordered from above to leave that space. How long will it continue like this in this country? No Nigerian is more Nigerian than others. Let us learn to respect the human rights of every Nigerian. It is important for us to know that the global community is watching us every day. And when Amnesty International brings out our rating of human rights violations, we come out there to say all sorts of things. They are tracking every violation that happens in this country. And women's rights are human rights. When you violate the rights of a woman, know that you are violating the human rights. Then we talk about Natasha. Now, even yesterday at a meeting, I was saying, personally, I find it very appalling that out of 109 people, you have just 4 female senators. And when the Senate session ends, when your plenary ends, you start filing out over 100 and 5 men. How does that look? How do they feel in that environment? with everybody speaking in baritone voices. It's very, very disheartening. Then they got this golden opportunity to show that, in spite of the fact that these women are few, we would make you understand that you are accepted in this space. Speak up to say what your mind, what you have to say in your mind, and then we would correct you rightly, not bullying. Not bullying. And to be very candid, everyone out there trying to paint Natasha, she was not speaking from her seat, but she raised a point of order. And please, everyone should go and look at what that order 10 says and where and how you should raise it in any form, because it is a point of order that a senator should raise when he or she is in distress. Mm-hmm. So being in distress, you can be in any position or in any point, in any situation. It mustn't be on your seat.
Yeah.
So the point of order she raised had already given her the immunity to speak. The ordinary thing that would have been done by a Senate president who loves, who also claimed to be a he for she, would have been to give her the opportunity to speak, to say whatever rubbish he claims she wanted to say, and then he would have said, Distinguished Senator Natasha, I have listened to you, but you need to move to your seat so I can attend to you from your seat. That would have been distinguished and honorable enough, rather than asking the sergeant at arms to take her out as if she was a common criminal or an animal that strayed into the Senate. You don't address a distinguished senator like that. So all of this, for me, that particular action was, for me, gender-based violence. And I said, we require not just the capacity to lead in this homogeneous environment of leadership in Nigeria right now. We require emotional intelligence. Nigerian women are not happy. Nigerian women are concerned that the whole leadership of the Senate is, of the whole National Assembly, in fact, is all men. The only woman we had there was the chief whip, who we lost last month, and she was chief whip of the state, of the House of Representatives, and she was graciously replaced by a man, while having other women in her zone. Even if you wanted to say her geopolitical zone had to replace her, she had other, I think 3 or 4 women from that zone in that chamber. So what are we saying? What are we telling the world? I want to say that we have so much concern about what is happening in National Assembly, because we are pushing for special seats, or what they say, we're pushing for additional seats for women. And if this is happening, this is on the table right now for discourse, and we have this kind of temperament, we have this kind of disposition towards women issues, we can slam a female senator 6 months suspension, ripping her off of all her entitlements as a senator, plus asking her not to even introduce herself as a senator anywhere within and outside this country. I doubt if that Senate has the mind or the body language required to pass that constitutional amendment bill. And I'm seeing this opportunity to say that if Mr. Senate President really wants Nigerian women to agree or even relax their nerves, saying that yes, he will be neutral and he will support that bill, not for the women, but for Nigeria and for our democracy. He should take that bill as a personal project. In fact, he should add his name to co-sponsor that bill on the floor of the Senate and make sure that he gets accelerated and full attention of that bill to ensure that that bill is passed into law and enacted as a constitutional amendment in this process that is going on.
Okay.
This situation going on in Nigeria now is putting out a negative impression on women who intend to go into politics.
True.
It's also giving the male folks who are very protective of their spouses an impression that that space is not a space you should allow your spouse into. A member of my organization in FCT called me to say, my husband called me to say, you see what I tell you? Women in politics are always abused. And you cannot trust, if you don't trust your wife, please don't allow her to be part of politics. She shouldn't participate at all.
These are the issues.
So what is this doing to the work that we've been doing all these years? The advocacies. What is this doing to it? It's taking us years back. And I also beg to disagree.
All right.
That is taking us years back because Natasha spoke up.
Okay.
I think that more women should speak up.
Okay.
So that we will make it, we will normalize it. She is finding it difficult to swim across these ties because most women have refused to speak up in the past. And because she has spoken up this time around, it looks as if something strange has happened. What has happened has been happening before. But because women has refused to speak up, it's looking as if something strange has happened.
All right.
Let us normalize this.
Okay.
More women should come up and speak up if they are being abused as leaders. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Irene, for taking us through, all the three women and what has affected them so far and how we got here, and some of the things that we can actually do. Talking about speaking up, Natasha came out, she spoke up, but even we as women, we still have a lot of women who have actually come and say, oh, Natasha, just keep quiet. There's no need for you to say anything. Why are you just saying now? Why are you just talking now? So a lot of this kind of comments were coming up. And unfortunately, if you look at what's going on in our society, it's almost as if their voices are louder than those who are drumming support for Natasha and what, she has done. Because, she has just exhibited courage coming up to talk about what happened previously, and she's telling other women that you have a voice, you can actually use it. Okay, so it's about making this not just Natasha's case, it's our case, because if it's not Natasha, it could touch any other person. If it wasn't her, it could be somebody else. And for the fact that she has actually come out to speak about this, then I think to a very large extent, like you said, we should try to normalize this. All right, accept it that it has happened to one of our own and see how we can fight against this kind of systemic failure that it's happening to women. All right, so now let's head on to solutions. Now. Chioma, I would come to you, as regards solutions, because at the end of the day, we're trying to see how we can move forward from this. Now, Honorable Rui talked about, some of the issues that are going on, taking us back. But even at that, I feel we're making steps. Well, even if the steps are not strong enough, at least we are making steps. Yes, sometimes some things happen and it's just like it's throwing us back. But I would say we are being resilient. Because even as we have people who still shut us down, we still have a lot of women, and we still have a lot of he for she's who are pushing, the woman agenda forward. So let's talk about solutions right now, Chioma. Now, beyond political and corporate leadership, women in other industries also get to face systemic bias. So how can, how can mentorship, how can sponsorship, help to create more opportunities for women in these spaces? How do we get to have more women in these spaces despite what is happening? Or how do we get there? How do we break this?
Right. First of all, just want to put it on record that I don't believe in he for she. I think it's one of those funny things that we say
Yeah.
to make men feel good and to make them feel like they're helping. But if you consider the fact that Nigeria's current representation in parliament has regressed to what it was in 1999,
Very true.
then you realize that we are playing, right? And it's quite sad. It's a joke that's no longer funny. It's a circus act that the audience has left the building. So my personal principle, I don't believe in he for she. I don't know what that means. We do not have we don't have male supporters in Nigeria. If we did, there would be more men speaking up. There would be less people saying that the Senate president jokes a lot, and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan cannot take a joke. There would be less people who were afraid of the consequences of speaking up when their rights have been violated or when they have been violated. So yes, just wanted to put that on record. To your question about what we can do, I don't believe in the broad stroke mentorship that Nigeria tries to foist on people, because it perpetuates this notion that there's a level of suffering or subservience that a person must go through before they are qualified for any leadership position. It's the reason why young people are often shunned when they talk about wanting to hold political office, because who have they worked under? Who have they served? Who have they been mentored by? Forgetting that some of the world's most brilliant leaders have come from the private sector, have come from civil society, have come from the citizenry. The thing that qualifies a person to hold public office in Nigeria is already stipulated in the constitution. There's nothing like mentorship. We have the 35% affirmative action that Nigeria is not following. I mentioned that earlier, that we're not following anything. We have the various promises that politicians continue to make when they're running for office, when they're building women's groups, when they're saying, and announcing to everyone that they are he for she's, which is very irritating, and largely useless, because they enter office and they do the exact opposite of all the promises that they have made. You see political parties announcing we are going to take away the cost of forms because they believe that they are doing women a favor. And I think this is a shift in the conversation that we need to start having when we talk about, representation of women, not just in politics, but in leadership positions. You're not doing women a favor. You are not trying to make women happy with you. I cringe when I hear such statements. We are currently running a country on half the intelligence, half the merit, half the competence, half of everything, because we do not have women in office. So we should be seeing the absence of women in political spaces and political leadership as a deficit in leadership, as opposed to a social or a charitable case that we should be extending magnanimity to. We should be seeing violence against women as a state of insecurity, as opposed to, these are family matters we want to deal with. An organization in Lagos, I don't remember the full name, but they're called BOHS. They published a report in January saying that violence against women, sexual and gender-based violence, escalated by 240% from January of 2024. In a sane country, there would be a state of emergency declared. There would be meetings convened. Joint chiefs would be brought together to say what is going on, who is killing our women, why is a section of our society perpetrating violence against another section of society. But that's not happening. Legislators are purchasing cars. Legislators are passing bills to satisfy themselves. Legislators are beating down women who are faced, right? We have a scenario where the Senate president is, as it were, presiding over the case that he has been accused in. You can't tell me. So when you say where is the mentorship going to start? What are we going to be mentoring people to say? When you say sponsorship, what does that mean? I know young women who ran for office in 2019 following the passage of the Not Too Young to Run bill on the 30th of May 2018 by former President Muhammadu Buhari. And one particular young lady in Lagos went to meet the community leader to say, "Oh, I want to run for State House of Assembly. My father has said I should come have a conversation with you because you are one of the leaders of this community." And he told her to climb his table. And she's like, "Oh, no, maybe you didn't hear me. I came to talk to you about my political ambition." And he point blank asked her to sleep with him. And she said no, and he beat her up.
Wow.
I can give you stories for days. So when we talk about mentorship, what are we saying? When we talk about sponsorship, what are we saying? Legislators have, there is the lady from the former MD of NDDC, Joy Nunye, who spoke about who spoke about her own challenges when she was MD, and when she was MD of NDDC,
Yes.
under the Senate president.
Sure.
There has been no, what's the word? There has been no intellectual rigor with the handling of this case. No one has explored, for instance, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan said her motions were constantly being stepped down. If not anything, can we look at the records of the Senate? Have her motions been stepped down? It is one easy place to start from. To start thinking about, is she saying, she's speaking lies or is she speaking the truth? But no, we have instead talked about how many husbands she has had. We have talked about her dressing. We have talked about her raising her voice. We have talked about her, disparaging the Senate in the media and globally. We have talked about her refusing to move to her assigned seat. We have discussed everything. And it's important for us to always remember that we come back to the primary allegation, which is sexual harassment. So if we are unable to provide justice or to provide a modicum of justice for a woman so powerful, a woman at that level, what is the hope for the common woman? What's the hope for you? What's the hope for me? What are we telling people in the corporate world? We're telling them that if a woman speaks up about sexual harassment, you can suspend her. You can bring together any number of issues you want to bring together, and you can suspend her, or you can come down so hard on her you ensure that no one else in that office ever speaks about sexual harassment. So I don't really know how to answer your question on mentorship. Like I said earlier, what we should be looking at is engaging with the leadership of the country at the executive, at the judicial, but also at the legislative level, to say we need a backbone. We need political will that ensures that women can get into office, women can actually function in their offices. Imagine denying an entire constituency for 6 months, even when there is a legal precedent that says you can't suspend a senator for more than 14 days because you're denying their constituents of representation. So the Senate is actually, which is why I said earlier, they are institutionalizing criminality, because there's an existing judgment that says you can't suspend someone for more than 14 days. But they suspended her for 6 months. They've stripped this. They've don't do this, don't do that. It is punitive in nature, and I think we should all, lock in that they are trying to ensure that no one ever does this again, which means that sexual harassment will become rife, not just within the hallowed chambers, but also in other parts of Nigeria, because we have given people the template to shut down petitions against sexual harassment.
All right. Thank you very much, Chioma. Now, just as we wrap up this conversation, let me come back to you, Honorable Irene. Well, we have a few more minutes to go. So, to be a part of this, you can dial 07000 917 917. You can also dial 081 0800 1235 917. Those are the numbers to get in touch with us this afternoon on the program, The Big Question, and where we are looking at, Confronting the barriers to women in leadership, a case of Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Folake, Soetan, and Mojisola Meranda. So do well to dial the numbers 07000 917 You can also go ahead and dial the number 0800 1235 917. And remember, we're live on YouTube at WFM 917. You can get to watch us live there. And of course, you can log on to www.wfm917.com to listen live from any part of the world. Now, let me come back to you, Honorable Irene. Now, as the president of League of Women Voters Nigeria, what message do you have for women who aspire, to be in leadership positions but are discouraged by some of the... All right, to have a call. Let's pick this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Stephen calling from Cairo.
Did you say Steven?
Sorry, this is Kingsley. This is
Kingsley.
Calling from.
All right, Kingsley, go ahead.
With this into explanation now, the last speaker that just speak now on this issue of this woman. Seriously, let's just tell ourselves the truth. If not just because they're trying to run away from the truth of what the president has done, they will not have sent her like they sent her away. And this is a clear indication that you are telling us that we, the younger ones, even if we do something like that, we should be rest assured that nothing will happen. Thank you, and God bless us all.
All right, thank you to Kingsley for calling. So, Chioma, he was reacting to what you just said. Did you hear him clearly?
I did. He said that they know the truth and that's why they suspended her.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I agree with him because, they say that if, in Nigeria, we say things like if your hands are clean, come forward. Right?
Sure.
I think my everlasting frustration with this case, particularly, is that she has not been, that the petition has not been treated.
Cool.
The first thing they said was, oh, you cannot sign a petition by yourself. But if you look at the spirit of that law, it is that if you're bringing forward something on behalf of your constituents should sign it, not you, the legislator. That's what that applies to. Unfortunately, the Senate, as it, the National Assembly, as it is currently constituted, doesn't have mechanisms for conflict resolution within themselves, right? And so she complied and she got someone from her constituency to put forward the petition. But before then, the ethics committee that's supposed to be reviewing that committee, that's, reviewing the petition, already says the petition is dead on arrival. The second everlasting frustration I have is that the Senate hasn't tried to give Nigerians any form of respect. They've not even said, okay, let's pretend. Sometimes when you're dealing with a child, the child says, can you take me somewhere? You say, okay, go and put on your slippers. The child feels some hope. I'm going to go out with mommy, or I'm going to go out with daddy. And then they come out, but you've gone. The Senate has not even tried to tell us, go and put on your slippers while we work on this thing. Even if they had a premeditated response or a premeditated, outcome, even play with us small. Use my head to do nonsense. Let me believe you're actually working in my favor. No. So a legislator, I think from Ondo East was speaking. I saw when he said there is an integrity question that the Senate now has to answer. And our actions over the next few days will determine whether Nigerians are going to listen to us or are going to take us seriously or not. So yes, I agree with the caller.
All right, thank you very much, Choma, for reacting to that. So let's see, 07000 917 is the number to call. You can also dial 0800 1235 917. And feel free to send me a WhatsApp message to 070 All right, so I was coming to you, Honorable Irene, as the president of the Nigerian Women Voters, a League of Women Voters. Now, what message, do you have for women who aspire to be in leadership positions but are discouraged by all of these things that are happening. There is the case of Mojisola, there is the case of Folake in the corporate world, and there is the case of Natasha. And these are just the three major ones that are just trending at the moment. But then, in every nook and cranny of the country, a woman in leadership position somehow, even in our local government positions, you get to have women who are facing this thing as little as, the least positions that you can find that a woman is just trying to occupy. You will find some of these, issues that come up that could probably hinder the woman from going forward, or could just stop her, or could just, bring down her voice. Now, how do we get to encourage women, all those who aspire to be in leadership, but are looking at all of these things that are happening around and are just discouraged?
Okay, thank you for that question. Now, where are the sisters? Let's go to the sisters' room now and speak to ourselves. For every woman in this country, because of the way this country is now, that is the formation of this country, the structures, the political environment, the social environment, we need ourselves. So we need to realize that, especially as a woman in leadership, the women currency. You need to have women behind you. You need to belong to women groups. You need to have hand-holding mechanisms with sisters. Why am I saying this? In every situation, you need that shoulder that you will lean on. And the way Nigeria is tailored now, we need to hold hands together. If not, we won't win this battle. Rising, they will use a sledgehammer and hit her down. But if we rise together, we will be able to stand firm. If we pull ourselves away from the way folk and stand alone, for instance, typically, when I advocate for more women in leadership, I am specific. We don't want women who go into leadership position, especially politics, and join the boys' club and lock the doors against women. Because if you join the boys' club, you don't have the women's currency behind you. The day the boys want to sacrifice you, they will do that with ease. I think that women's rights movements need to stand up firm. We need to work more together. We also need women in leadership to identify with these groups. We're not saying you should be actively involved, but know what is happening and try to, to support. Because this social capital in leadership is for every woman. You need that safe space where you can let down your guards, be yourself, be vulnerable, have people listen to you genuinely, show you love, compassion, and give you the required support.
Okay.
Now let's get out of the sisters' room. We need to understand that we have policies in this country. The other day, somebody was asking, Choma spoke earlier about the affirmative action. The Nigerian women took the federal government to, I think, 3 years ago, and they got a judgment on the implementation of the affirmative action. And up till today, the federal government is doing nothing about it. And no civil society organization, not a women's rights movement, have gone back to court to say the federal government is not doing the needful
about it. We
must hold them accountable. We must not stop talking. We will continue to speak up. We will continue to engage strategically. We will continue to engage in advocacy and these policies. We have enough laws in this country that, if implemented, the space will be very, very conducive for every Nigerian.
Sure. I definitely agree.
To navigate.
Okay.
With convenience. They have systematically put in place those mechanisms that will block women away from the space, or will make the space difficult for them to strive, or even when it's their entitlement, they are being deprived of it.
Okay.
So I think that what should be done is, first, I've said three things. As sisters, we must hold hands together. We must take advantage of the female social capital. We must continue to advocate. We must continue to speak up. And for me, data is very important. Those of us working in this space, for instance, I challenge ourselves to put together some of these scenarios that have taken place within the political space from 19 to date. And let's have a national conversation. Let Nigerian legislators and political gladiators tell us why the Nigerian women in workplace, in the political space, and even wherever have become endangered species. Why have our work, our sweat, instead of becoming a blessing to us, is becoming a curse and an insult to womanhood in this country?
Okay.
We have Nigerian women, as I said earlier, doing great things out there globally. Even in Nigeria, the private sector, the public sector, and even in politics. But what is happening? What do these women get at the end of the day? We saw what happened to Patricia Ite when she was a speaker. They framed her up. They did all they wanted to do. They removed her as speaker. At the end of the day, they apologized. Why do you do that? Why do you do that to a hard-earned integrity of a woman? And because they know that if they have more women in the space, Nigeria will be better off. I say this, and I say it with all my chest, because I know that Nigerian women, they feel in the space, they have sanitized the space. Let's talk about Dora Akunyili of blessed memory. Look at what she did in NAFDAC. Up till today, Nigerian women, look at what Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is doing. Why are we not giving more women the opportunity to come into the space? And then they give when they want to make mockery of us, they go and select for themselves the women that they know can be bench warmers, that will not be able to speak, that will not be able to say anything in the room, and then they say we have women in the space. At the beginning of this administration, I was one of the loudest voices on the president to keep to his promises, his campaign promises. And then he appointed advisors. Where are they? All those advisors, where are they? They just disappeared. When he was replacing ministers, he removed more women, 4 women, and I think replaced with 1 or none. We need to continue to speak up on these issues.
Okay.
There's little or nothing we can do. We may not be able to say we will do anything now, but 2027 is around the corner.
It's just around the corner.
And we will continue to have the governance, people in government that will promise us and then come into government and become lords over us. Leadership is supposed to be service to humanity and service to the people.
All right.
You don't elect people who will and not allow you to even have a voice of your own. I think that the female voters are listening.
Hmm.
And I know that they are in pain the way every reasonable Nigerian woman is in pain. Now, I want us to look at clearly the voices that are speaking against Natasha. They are people in the age group of the Senate President. They are not very older women. They are his age group. They are not young women either. And so you would understand that there's a conspiracy out there to set the older women against the younger women. And we really, really need to look at that critically and be smart. Because as women, we have no option but to work together.
Sure.
The only option is working together, holding hands together, moving together, and protecting each other.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you so much. We have no option but to work together. Now, to take actionable steps, I will come to you, Chioma, and then you give us your final words with this. What actionable steps do you think, should be taken both at policy, societal levels to ensure that the next generation of female leaders do not face the same struggles that we're talking about, that women are still facing? Even as we're speaking right now, there's a woman somewhere who is facing, maybe worse than what Natasha is facing, maybe worse than what Folake faced, or even Mojisola. There are a good number of them at the moment who are facing this, but probably they don't even have the voice to speak, or even if they do, maybe they would say nobody would hear. So, what actionable steps do you think we can take to stop this from continuing, to the next generation of women leaders that, we will have? And then you give us your final words with that too.
Just quickly want to say that, women, while some of the utterances of women on the Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's case have been disgraceful, and I refer to comments from Senator Ireti-Kingibe, former Senator Olujimi, former Senator Itagiwa. I do not subscribe to the notion that women don't support women, right? So let's put that on record as well. Same way we are putting on record that I don't believe in the term he for she. I don't believe that women do not support women. The same way, men have problems and some men don't stand with them.
Yeah.
That's the same way women have issues and some women don't stand with them. You will never have 100% of, a group.
All
Whether
right,
it is
Chema,
by
just
gender
hold our
or anything.
thoughts. Chema, just hold our thought. Let's quickly pick this call.
Great.
Let's see. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Toby Lover
All right, Toby Loba, you are welcome. Where are you calling us from?
from Aja.
Aja. All right, go ahead, Toby Loba, quickly, please.
All right, quick one. I want to talk about women. I think women, they are the most problem of themselves. Okay, just like, for instance, last 3 weeks, I went to barb my hair somewhere. I was even happy I found a lady to barb me.
Mm-hmm.
All the ladies there, I mean, it's a unisex barbing salon. But the girl was like, she's one of the barbers. So I'm not like, okay, she should barb for me. You see all the ladies there, the way they were doing. I mean, I just have to pretend, just to act that day that, it's paining me. So all of them was like, laughing inside themselves. So the boss collected it and back for me. So it was just happening. The girl was good. So the next week, the following week, I went back there. So I said she should back for me. I mean, you need to see the attitude everybody they were showing me that, like, I just have to shout to the lady, Madam, don't blind me with your hair. I mean, showing attitude, all because she was the one barbing for me. She was the one attending to me. So I think the problem is from the lady. And I think why you get the solution is maybe when ladies love themselves, I think changes will be, I prefer ladies leader more than anything, more than men.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tobilola, for calling and giving that scenario of you heading to the barbing salon and all that transpired there. And he himself says he actually prefers a female leader, And I think, Chioma, you were just speaking to that directly, talking about how you don't believe, and I also don't actually believe that we don't support ourselves. So, in as much as you have men that could speak against women when women come up, you still have women who will speak against women when women come up. So it's just something that happens. And you mentioned some senators who actually did not support Natasha when she stood up,
which is fine.
Yes,
It is
exactly.
disgraceful, but it's fine. And to just respond to this young man, one incident does not an entire demographic make.
Yeah.
Right? So he had one incident with one female barber, and somehow that has translated into women and their own problems. I am very impatient with sentences like that, because this same man will go out and have a problem with a bus conductor or with a banker or with someone, one of his friends, but that won't translate to all men are problematic or men are men's problems, right? So I think it's important for us. So one of my pieces of advice, one of the things I will be saying is that we should do well to escape these stereotypes that are so easily foisted on women, right? So things like women don't support women, women are their own problems. We have seen men climb the gate of the National Assembly. Did we say that men are each other's problems? We have seen a senator, a serving senator, snatch the mace. Did we say men are each other's problems? We have seen senators fight themselves, tear their shirts. We have seen serving legislators, conspire to commit arson. They have burnt down state houses of assembly. Did we say men are their own problems? So what is this extra? Why is it that women must bear the extra burden of a certain level of presentability? When men are running riots and, like I said earlier, committing crimes all over the place. So I think we must divest ourselves from the unnecessary, and I dare say unrealistic expectations that we have of women, right?
True.
Human beings are human beings. There are some good human beings, there are some bad human beings.
True.
In one instance, you might think that the way I've handled a matter is good. In another instance, you can say, Choma, I don't agree with you. I might feel justified in the way I've acted, but you, Rose, might feel like my actions have been injurious to you. That's literally how life works. But to have one incident with one female barber and therefore say women are their own problem, I think it's ridiculous, and quite frankly, should not be allowed in the presence of right-thinking people. What is my advice? Just one thing: we can't ever stop speaking. I think Honorable Irene alluded to that at some point in her last comments. We can't stop speaking. The more of us who continue to speak about the issues that we are facing, I think that we don't complain enough in Nigeria. I've always said it, we don't complain enough. I don't know how we went to sleep one day and we're paying 160 naira for a liter of fuel, and then we woke up the next day and we're paying 600 and something naira, and all of us did not feel the streets. We don't complain enough. A bag of rice is currently over 100,000, and minimum wage is 70,000. In some places, some people are still even collecting 30,000. I've seen a video recently of a street cleaner in Lagos saying that
we saw that
they've not been paid 85,000. They're still paying them 30,000. Somebody is collecting that money from hundreds of people sweeping the streets. We are not complaining enough. So it's not a question of, when I heard the podcast I was referring to earlier, they said we are all Natasha, one way or the other. Whether we like, even men, we are all Natasha. Nigeria is stiffing us one way or the other everywhere we turn. The University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital went how many days? Almost 3 months without electricity. We are not complaining enough. Look at the issue you raised with Ikeja Disco. People, you are owing somebody. You are owing somebody. There's no contestation. You are owing. The person says, I can no longer provide this service because you are not only owing, the debts are mounting, you are not offsetting this debt in any way. So you go into their office, you beat people up, nothing has happened. Nobody has been court-martialed, nobody has been punished. It means it will happen again. As a matter of fact, if you think back, growing up, they used to say, oh, they don't collect money from the police, from the army, etc., because they will beat you. And we thought those were fables, but we're watching it happen and there are no consequences. So the one thing I will say is we need to keep speaking. Women are getting killed. by their intimate partners. Women are getting killed by men. Even in this month of Ramadan, a woman is killed because her husband said the food was not cooked on time. Where is the justice? Where are the consequences? Your problem cannot be what a female barber did and how she. No, that's not the issue. We should continue speaking about these things. 240% increase in gender-based violence. Actually, not in gender-based violence, in femicide. That is 240% increase in the people who are dying. Nobody has an extra life anywhere. But women are being killed, and it is not priority. It is not seen as a security thing. It is seen as it's a social issue. You go to report with the police, they tell you that you want to, you want to break up someone's home. These are the issues. These are the things that we should be speaking about. Not how many husbands Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has had. Not how many children. Nothing. We should be focused on someone's rights have been violated, and the structures that should exist within our constitution, within our nation, to protect the rights of people are being ignored. So, advice, everybody keep speaking. Anywhere you see injustice, speak up. When you see police brutality, speak up, say something. Evil continues to thrive because people aren't saying anything. We must continue to speak up.
Okay. Thank you so much, Choma. Let's come back to you, Honorable Irene. Your final words, please. So that, because our time is fast spent, let's just have your final words to all of what we've discussed today.
Okay, thank you. My final word would be that it's not enough to silence one woman. It's not enough to silence one woman. And I want to reiterate what I said earlier, that the Senate should redeem its image, because obviously I'm glad they know that there's a question of integrity hanging over them now. And for the highest legislative body in this country, they are left with no choice than to do what is right. Let there be an independent investigation to this issue. Gender-based violence is a no-no globally. Sexual assault is what people can speak up at any point in their life and they'll be listened to. If a child was abused at 6 and when she is 60, she feels is the right time for her to speak up, she should be listened to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable. Thank you so much, Shamati, for coming on the program. We do appreciate all of your insight, all of your, call to actions that you have all mentioned, and, how we can see ourselves be better as women who are aspiring to get into leadership, those in leadership, and even, in our societies as a whole. So a very big thank you to each of you for coming on the program this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
All right. Thank you. Do want to have a great weekend. All right, so that's it on the program today. And, we get to face challenges. And the ones faced by Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, Mojisola, Meranda, and Folake reflect the broader struggles women get to encounter in leadership. Now, to break these barriers, we must push for policy reforms, institutional support, and cultural shifts that embraces women in leadership roles. Now, the question is, what role will you play? Will you support women in leadership, challenge bias, or advocate for equal opportunities? The change starts with all of us. Together, we can build a future where women lead without resistance. Now, a very big thank you to our guest today, Honorable Irene Awuna Ikege, President, League of Women Voters Nigeria, and of course, Chioma Agwegbo, Executive Director, TechHa, and women's rights activist. Thank you to the two callers we had, the two gentlemen who called, and to each and every one of you who tuned in to listen this amazing Friday afternoon. A very big thank you to our executive producer, Tom Okewale Shonaya. Now, the big question is a platform where we discuss and provide solutions to issues affecting us as a nation and as citizens. Conversations like this don't end here. We must keep going beyond today's program. Advocacy will continue, like Chama said, and even Honorable said, we must continue to speak about these issues. We'll continue to lend our voice to such issues until the change we want happens. My name is Rose Yusuf Kaiser. Do well to stay tuned to Women Radio WFM 91.7. Good afternoon.